Good morning. This is Mr. Francisco. Today is 7 days to go. So we have according to the incubator, 7 days to go. And actually, maybe 6 days to go if we go off straight time. The incubator was delayed for about a day and a half, so it's running a little bit behind the actual schedule because of the time that it was unplugged in the first week. So where we're at, we're going to take a look here. I'm going to show you. Let me see how to share this. Oh, darn, I didn't do that. I'm going to be talking to you today about the kinds of things that have actually been happening over the last week, maybe 4 days. So I'm going to back up to where we had 8 days to go and just kind of mention maybe even 9 days to go. I think I'm going to go back to 9 days because there's some interesting things there. We had, basically, you start to see the eye in the embryo. Let's go to day 8 because day 8 is kind of interesting. Day 8 was where our embryo began to look really like a chick. You can see the chick here. It's got its little beak. This is a very common pose. I'm looking at a lot of these pictures, and we're seeing the chick laying on its back in some way, shape, or form. It might be on its stomach as well, but it's usually got its beak up near its feet. And you can see the head, the eye, the body, the abdomen, the legs coming up this way, and the heel, and then the foot, right up there, its toes, right near its beak. And that's, I don't know, it's kind of interesting. That's kind of how it stays. Of course, it moves around quite a bit, so it's not static like this, but that's a common pose. All right. And things that were happening, the cartilaginous. I finally got to say that. I've been practicing that for 2 weeks and I still can't get it. Cartilaginous, I think, is how you say that. And you can just break that down into, this prefix there and understand that that's probably talking about the cartilage. Cartilage is developed. Cartilage is your ear, your nose, bendable bone, right? All the stuff chick that needs to be developed, that's bendable bone. All right, next 7 days to go. Embryo development. The embryo head turns its head toward the blunt end of the egg. This is really, really important because there's a lot of things that are happening that need to happen at this time to get it ready for hatching. So the blunt end of the egg, let me just grab an egg here and show you really quick what they're talking about. So on one of these eggs, you can see the blunt end of the egg is the side that's not so pointy. That would be the side over here on this side, on the right side in this case. And the reason why it's turning its head that direction, that's where the air pocket should be forming or should have formed. I do have one egg that did not form its air pocket there. We'll talk about the reason why that's important to have that there and why the chicken might be at risk with not the air pocket being there in just a minute. But anyway, so we have the air pocket here. The head of the chick is going to be turned that direction. So if we were to look here at the embryo, you're looking at the egg in this position, right? The head is facing the blunt end of the egg, and it's in that air pocket area. Now, let me go ahead and tell you about that. If the head is in that area, the rest of the egg, if you look at one of these eggs, and I'm going to try to grab my flashlight here and show you, but when you look at the egg under candling, you can see, as I mentioned, you've got your air pocket there, and it's quite big, right? That's the area where there aren't any blood vessels attached to. And so there's no risk when that breaks of rupturing any vessels. So if the chick is chopping away in the air pocket area, it's not going to run any risk of breaking vessels. I don't know that that's a scientific fact, that it's going to be that chopping through the blood vessels will hurt the chick, but it seems to me to make sense that if its head is in the air pocket area, it's number one, it's going to be able to get oxygen, get air, while it's transitioning from a non-breathing creature to a breathing creature. And also, it's going to not be harming any of the vesicle stuff, like the blood vessels in that system there. So, a couple of thoughts there. I have been learning quite a bit through this process, and I've been reading other people's materials. There's a couple of good websites out there we've been using for resources that have kind of helped us along to understand this. So anyway, so day 8 days to go. Now let's look at 7 days. 7 days, and we're really going to be, like I say, closer to possibly 6. But 7 days ago would make it be a Thursday hatch day for us in 1 week. So it's either going to be Wednesday or Thursday. The embryo has turned its head toward the blunt end of the egg, and the skull has begun to harden. Right, so 6 days to go. The small intestines are outside of the body right now, and so when we're transitioning to 6 days to go, the small intestines will come out of the kind of the yolk area and come into the body. Before they're performing a function externally, and now they're going to be working more internally as the chick is getting ready to hatch when it begins to eat after it hatches. So they need to be in the body now. Scales, claws, and beak are becoming hardened as well as the skull was. All right. So then these are some interesting pictures too. I don't know if you noticed the previous picture. The head was almost all eyeball, and now that head is growing to be a more relational shape, a normal relational shape. There's actually growing around bigger than the eyeball. So anyway, and again, here's that kind of same picture with the toes up by the beak. Just going to kind of flip through because we're going to be out. I'm not going to be updating. This is the last day for me to candle the eggs. So a couple of things that we're going to be expecting to see at the next stages all the way up to hatch day. You can see now there's developing some of the downy feathers, completely covering the body. Now, downy feathers were already there, so these are more of the quill kind of feathers. And yolk is going to be the important nutrient now it's going to live off of. Albumin is the white, and so it was using that to live off of as well. All right. Candling stops with 3 days to go. We're at 4 right now, but beak on this chart, this is showing 4 days to go. Beak turns toward the air cell. Amniotic fluid, that's just the watery content in the egg, is disappearing. One of the triggers that are telling the chick, hey, it's getting time for you to hatch now. The head is between the legs, and embryo prepares for hatching. 3 days to go. This is what we're going to see when my class comes in on Monday. We're going to be talking about this. This is where we'll be. Embryo development. Head is under right wing. Beak breaks through the inner shell membrane. Okay, so there's a skin inside there. That skin needs to be able to break so that it will be able to breathe once he starts to chip away at the shell. If that membrane is too tight around the chick, or if it is not able to break, it will end up causing the chick to suffocate. And also due to humidity, if the humidity is not good, if it's drier in there, it starts to shrink up around the chick and creates a condition where the chick can't get out and will suffocate as well. So we're keeping the humidity high in the last 3 days so that we make sure that the skin, especially on this day here, can break on that day. And I'm going to go ahead and seal it up early so I can make sure that humidity is there to allow it to break through that inner membrane. The lungs are beginning to function. All right, so that's interesting. So some of the air in the air pocket now apparently is being used for the chick to test out and begin operating those lungs so they're ready on hatch day. Very interesting. Excuse me. 2 days, we really have a really realistic looking chick here now. The yolk sac begins, okay, so now the intestines earlier on, remember I mentioned a couple days earlier, were absorbed into the body cavity. Now the yolk sac is also going to be absorbed in, and the embryo is occupying most of the space in the eggs, and the lungs are beginning to function still. 1 day to go. Yolk sac is going to be completely absorbed into the body cavity. I've had it where that actually hasn't happened all the way on a hatch day, and the yolk sac was still out, got attached to a piece of shell, and the little chick had a little umbilical cord attached to it that also was external to its belly button, and ended up dragging around a fragment of piece of shell on its yolk sac for about a day until it fell off, but it was fine. It was kind of interesting. We named it Shelly. Good name for a chick like that. Anyway, amniotic fluid is gone. So now that is a signal it's time to hatch. Chick breaks the amnion and starts to breathe air into the air cell. All right, so that's when it actually starts using the lungs. Lungs are functioning like real lungs at this point. So I wasn't sure earlier, but now I can see 1 day to go, that's what's happening. So there's an internal and external PIP. What the PIP is, that's when they break through something. So they're breaking through both that inner membrane and also the external shell as well. And you'll see that now. And you'll begin hearing little peeping noises, and they're going to be talking to each other, telling each other it's time to hatch. Now, flock animals like birds need each other for warmth. So they communicate to each other before they hatch. They start saying, beep, 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 beep. Hey, let's bust out of here, guys. It's time to break out, okay? And so they all like, yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it. And they're all like, peeping back and forth at each other, making those plans ready to hatch, right? So that is what's going on that last day. And you come into the classroom and you hear, what's that strange noise, kids? And it's those little chicks. They're all talking to each other, and you can hold one up and listen to it, and you're like, oh my gosh, there's a chick in there. It's really cool. All right, so last day, there is a little piece on the beak that is going to grow. It's called egg tooth, and it grows on the top of the nose. And it is kind of like a rhinoceros nose thing, whatever. And it sticks up, and it allows the chick to chop around the egg. And notice, it's hard to see it here, but it almost cuts a straight line around the outer side of the egg there. And it uses its egg tooth to do that. That egg tooth will break off after it hatches, and it's only for that point in time. But you'll see on a baby chick, you can see that little tooth sticking up from the beak, above the beak, not in the beak, but above the beak. The feathers will dry within an hour, and it turns from a sad-looking thing to a beautiful, cute little fuzzy little chick within an hour. And it's amazing. They will eat and drink almost right away. Once they stand up, they're eating and drinking. They know what to do. All right. So with that said, we have the incubator open. I do want to talk about incubator lockdown here in just a minute. I will be using this to help me set that. Temperature, we want the temperature to stay really constant. We gotta change the settings here. So I'll show you what this will look like. And I'm not going to change it yet, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to do on day three to go. Turn mode here is where I'm going to change this. Oops. Okay, there is a setting there. I didn't get to do all that, right? But all right, turn mode right here. Mode on. Okay, so we'll be turning that off. All right, so there's 3 settings: automatic. I probably could have left it on automatic and it would have done it itself on 3 to go. But this will turn it off. Once I do this, also, that probably would do enough for me to just do that. But there's also the part of, oops, I don't want to save that yet. Anyway, let me go over here and show. Inside here, we have the gear. With the turn mode turned off, probably it'd be okay to keep the gear in here. However, just because I'm not totally sure that the setting is going to work like it should. You never know about electronics, right? I'm going to take this gear out and replace it with a corrugated piece of cardboard. This is going to have ridges in it to help the eggs prevent them from turning over. And so we'll lay those eggs on top of this. Also notice some of my eggs, all my eggs have T on top of them. So that T is going to be how I'm going to initially set the eggs so that I know the top, that is going to be the top. So 3 days to go, I'll turn them like this, and then the chicks will be expected to do what they all typically know to do innately, turn their bodies upward so that their beak is facing up. And again, their head is going to be on the blunt end of the egg, getting in position, getting ready to hatch. All right. From the day 3 to go, all the way down to hatch day, they cannot move from that position, because if you turn them, they're not able to move so easily in the shell anymore, and you could affect whether or not they're actually going to be able to move into position again to get into the hatch position on hatch day. All right, so they'll all be looking like this. And these are the T's I put on here at the beginning just to help me know that when I watch the incubator, to see when I put them in initially, when I set the eggs, to see that the turner was actually working. You know, when I turn this turner, causing the eggs to turn, right? You can see how those T's are turning now. All right, so, all right. With that said, I'm going to candle a couple of eggs. We do have a disappointment here. I noticed yesterday, so I think one of our eggs didn't make it yesterday, sadly. It was one of the eggs that had a smaller embryo in it, and it was very active, but it was only taking up a small portion of the egg. And I think this was due to a turning problem, or maybe the fact that the incubator had been left off, or just normal type of situation that happens with some of these eggs, where for whatever multitude of reasons, it's just not going to be able to hatch. So let me grab my flashlight again, and we're going to take a look inside here. And I'm going to pause to turn off these lights here 1 second. All right, and so it's going to be a little dark in here. We should be able to see these eggs just fine. And turn this toward the air pocket and kind of show you what's going on inside here. And we do have some activity in here. We can see the chick is definitely taking up a lot more space than the last time I candled these in my last update. Very cool. We have been able to see some really interesting things in here some of these days. We've been looking for different things that we could identify. The main thing is we do see, oftentimes we can see the foot move and the toes on the foot. Today, I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but hopefully one of these will show us that. So we know this guy's okay. We're going to put him back. I did draw a little line here just to illustrate something that, this is kind of the line you're going to see maybe further down. And I'm using pencil. Pencil's fine to use on eggs. You don't want to use ink or marker. You may end up seeing it cut a little lower down, but somewhere in this vicinity it's going to cut. And of course, that's where the air pocket is. All right, this is the one that I think we've lost. I'm going to check him again today, but yesterday we saw no movement in it. And I'm not quite sure what to do here. I don't want to toss an egg that could be alive, of course, but we also don't want to keep it in here if it's going to cause any, if it doesn't belong in here still. So really, there's not much to see You can see how small, the small area that it's taking up inside the eggshell. A lot of it's just yellow and white, the air pocket, and then there's just not much of a mass in there. And it seems as if a lot of the functions in there, like the veins and things, seem to have kind of begun to break down. So, like I say, it's been about a day and a half now since I noticed there not being any more life in there. All right, let's take a look at this one. Just looking for some movement, and we do have some movement here. This is one of our tan eggs, so obviously it's not going to be so easy to see through. One of these is really interesting. One of the tan eggs is really quite interesting to look at. Air pockets, pretty big. Not as big as the others, but that's my smallest egg too. Okay, and this one, I don't think that's the air pocket side, so I want to turn this like that. There's my air pocket. There it is. All right, let's see what we got here. We're moving in this one. Very good. All right, nice air pocket on this one. I'm going to try to autofocus a little bit better here on this egg. Looking for movement. We definitely have movement. Now, a lot of times kids will say, oh, no, I see something moving in there. And we have to wait a minute, because when you turn the egg, you have to realize it's called inertia, but you have two different masses in there. You got the mass of the chick and you got the mass of the fluid around it. And so when you turn it, there's a little bit of a delay in response, and then the mass of the chick follows the turning of the egg. It's kind of like, being in a pool or whatever, the water pushes you forward, a wave will push you forward, that type of thing. So you have to wait a minute after turning it to actually see if you can see, like a quivering movement will tell you for sure if it is if it is the chick that's moving. All right, so anyway, things look good for this guy, so I'm going to go ahead and put him or her back in. This is my one. Now, this is the one I was going to mention. I'm concerned a bit about it because the air pocket is on the side of the egg. So when this chick, now he's doing quite well. You can see him. He's going, hey, turn off the lights. Hey, turn off those lights. I will in just a minute, but looks good. So he's very active. Where he's going to run into trouble is when he's getting closer to hatch day, because the air pocket, when he goes to try it, his lungs start working on that day before, and he can't get air because he's not facing the air pocket. He could die. So what I'm going to do with this guy, I'm going to move my T. In fact, right now, I might want to go ahead and remind myself by seeing if I can mark this T on top. I'm going to change where I put that T because I want it to be where the air pocket is facing directly upward to maximize his chance of being able to breathe on the day before he's going to hatch. I hope that makes sense to everybody. But I'm referring back to that day, I think it's day 1, which is really 1 day to go on that guide, where it says it starts to begin to breathe. All right, so that will create the airspace, and you can see his beak will be up into that area if he's facing upward like that. All right. Still, the concern is as he chops around, and he's got, look at that big vein there. if the vein is there, and if chopping through it with his beak can create a risk factor of hatching, by bleeding to death. I don't know. It certainly will be something to observe and learn from. Okay, so we'll watch that one. I wish there was a way to keep track of the chick that goes with each egg. Every time I do this, I wish I could have a way to map back the chick that was born to the videos that I've watched when I've candled them to see which egg they came out of. This one, oh yeah, I think I see some quivering in there toward the top, toward my finger here, maybe. Yep, it looks like it. Oh yeah, I see something moving. It might be a foot right there. Oh yeah. Great. Looks good, looks good. All right. Just taking a minute here to see if I got anything else out of that. All right, got one more to go. Oh yeah, we've all looked at all of these now. So that's where we're at. As I say, now we're going to go into lockdown, making sure this does not get opened anymore. We're going to put the cover back on it, and we're going to be counting down. Lockdown really will start on Monday. Today's Thursday. We are closed. Our school is closed for about 4 days. But I will come in and make sure there's water in here, and I won't candle them anymore because I've already been through a lot of stress with things going on. I do need to make sure I've not turned off the turner yet. But I will come in and turn off the turner, change the gear, take the gear out, put that new corrugated piece in, and then keep the water full. The humidity actually is supposed to go up over the next few days. And toward the end, it's got to be around 65%, whereas it's been around 55% up till now. That's going to enable it to break through the skin because it needs to be humid in order to break, not real tight and like saran wrappy, which would happen if it doesn't have enough humidity. That's all I've got right now. I'll check back in with you guys later, and hopefully this was helpful for some people, maybe some kids and teachers and stuff in the future who are doing this. It's been really quite an interesting experience for us here. And, I do this every year. This is probably my 7th or 8th year, and every year learn so much more stuff. And some of the kids who come into my classes know a lot too, and they come from farms that know a lot of things from raising chicks on the farm. So talk to y'all later.